there's people on social media that are like, don't play with Ouija boards, don't play with demons, don't play with spirits. It's dangerous. I've tried it before. Never ever do it. It's satanic. Satanic panic. It's a perfect time to panic. And I'm leaving. I'm like, okay. Are you okay? Have you eaten? Have you is everything up here good upstairs? You know, in the old noggin? Are you dealing with some trauma? Yeah, well, I deal with trauma every day. So, let's unpack this, shall we? We don't know anything about the spirit realm. We know from what spirits tell us, but there's always different perspectives, and every spirit is very unique, and they will have a unique story to tell us, not necessarily their own. Sometimes it can be within a different perspective and not necessarily in their perspective. They will keep things from us, as I have found out. They see things on a molecular level. That's what I know. They know your intentions. They know they can feel your emotions, and they can send things telepathically. That's so far what I have learned. Do I know everything? No, I don't. But I do know how to work with spirits and the Ouija board, and even with demons. And I don't play, okay? Let's get this straight. I do not play with spirits. I do not play with demons. I do not play with Ouija boards. I'm not some carefree kid that went to a sleepover and said, "Show me a sign." I'm like 30 years old. I know what I'm doing. I have selenite. I have sage. I have incense. And you know what I do? I consult my spirits, the angelic kind. And I ask them to give me guidance. I ask them to protect me if I am ever in a situation where I think I may be at risk. In fact, the first thing that I do when I have a Ouija session is I will say to my trusted spirits, the ones that God has appointed to me, and I will say, if I can have a safe channel to speak to this spirit, and it is safe for me to speak to them, then may you please contact them for me. And usually this takes within a few seconds, and then the plan just starts to move and that kind of thing. So I don't play. No, this isn't playing. This is, I know what I'm doing. And that's most of the people that have had negative experiences do not know what they are doing. They are playing. So yeah, that's good advice. Don't play with things. But there is a certain amount of experimentation that needs to be done. And I absorbed as much information as I could beforehand, while I was waiting for my Ouija board to come in the mail from Etsy. And I learned from people that had positive experiences. And I learned from this beautiful woman. Her name was Karen, of all people. I was like, Karen, oh gosh, I don't like Karens. Like some of them, but not all of them, there's that stigma of Karens, But she was so bubbly and sweet. Her name was Karen A. Dahlman, and she has written books, and she actually communicates to her angels using a angel board instead of a Ouija board. And she was so positive. She did it with her cats. See, the thing is, a lot of these people that come forward are extreme cases. Very cantankerous, mischievous demons that literally want to harm people. They have evil intent, or they have an intention to mess with you. And sometimes spirits won't necessarily be evil, but they just have a little bit of mischief. They just want to they want to mess with you. But you have to be careful of where you do it. You need to do it in a place that is possibly, that is safe to you, like your home, um, your favorite park, someplace, of course, where people aren't going to be oogling at you and going, "What are you?" Ooh, yeah, that obviously, there's not really any time that you need to do it. I mean, some people say at night, but that's not really, that's it doesn't need to be at night because spirits don't really have it's not like they're nocturnal or anything. They're not animals. They're not like, "Oh, yes, let's wait till midnight so we can have the Ouija session." It's like, no, they're energy. They don't run out of they are immortal beings essentially. And they don't have set times. They live in another plane of existence. So they're not going to say to you, unless this is an arrangement that you have with your spirits, they're not going to say, "Well, yes, I would like to set up a session at 12:30. I come alive more at midnight." That's not a thing. But maybe it might be a significant time. For instance, spirits might be more prone to speaking to you on a full moon, or a certain season. That might be the case, but really it's a matter of preference for the spirit. A lot of them are probably not going to say that you need to speak with them. You can literally do it anytime. And another thing is, I've actually done a spirit session, a Ouija session in a graveyard, and I can tell you it was magical. So magical. I almost forgot that I was not at home. And it was during the day, and the sun was shining, and it was on my face, and it was amazing. And sometimes I will go to the graveyard and I will pick a few songs, put my headphones on, and I will beat my drum to it so I can bless the graveyard. And I can imagine there's probably some people that are wondering, they're like, "What's that drumming coming from?" But I usually do it for like an hour, and then I go home. So but it's been really positive for me, and I'm just gonna say, I have trauma. I understand where you're coming from. When something happens and you see someone trying to do the same thing, you fear that same thing is gonna happen to them. And I think you have a lot of compassion because you're trying to stop someone from making a horrible mistake. But I can tell you that the majority of people are not having those experiences like you see in the movies or on YouTube. Extreme cases are not the majority. And I'm not trying to make you feel small, but I'm going to say that your experience is not probably part of the majority. Because there are many people that use Ouija boards. There's many people that have used Ouija boards for hundreds of years. And nobody's died. I know there's been some people that have been possessed that have died, but those are very fishy stories, and I mean, I would take those with a grain of salt. And I don't believe in these extreme cases. I believe that there's some truth to them. I believe that your experience was real, and I do believe that these other experiences were very real. But unfortunately, showing an extreme case and judging and measuring that and expecting that to be the case every time is just not logical. Because what sells the most in Hollywood, in YouTube, and social media is negativity. Negativity sells like hotcakes. I mean, would you want to watch a movie that was about, Ouija boards? And it was just about this happy-go-lucky girl that was playing with a Ouija board and having a wonderful time? No, it would be freaking boring. So that wouldn't be very exciting at all. So of course you gotta hype it up. You got to make it scary. You got to make it shocking. You got to have a shock value for it. So a lot of these cases like Annabelle and those movies, the horrible movies, the Ouija, I liked Ouija Origin of Evil. That was pretty good, but the other Ouija was just cheap jump scares and all the actors actually in the first Ouija movie actually had Ouija sessions, and they're perfectly fine. In fact, one of them is actually starring in House of Dragon. So, yeah. So they're fine. Now, I'm gonna say that a lot of people when they are experiencing energy from spirits, and remember, spirits are energy. So when they come to you, they communicate through energy and emotions and sensations and cold spots and other things like that. And sometimes that can be very overwhelming and it can be taken as negative. But at any time, whether you are setting up equipment, you have a Ouija board, or whatever, you can inform the spirits that you are working with and say, I am feeling really overwhelmed. Can we take like a 5-minute break? Can I take a 15-minute break, please? Or can you please tone it down a bit because this is getting to be a little too much for me? Because there's something that I've learned. All spirits usually appreciate honesty. They appreciate honesty and sincerity. And it's a common misconception. And I've had many people on social media say, demons lie. I was like, well, I hate to burst your bubble, baby, but any spirit has the potential to, I guess would be, it's kind of like if they're not comfortable with telling their story, they'll tell somebody else's story. And if they feel that if they're not comfortable with telling their story, they may just tell one aspect of it or one side of it or one percentage of it because they want you to engage. They want you to ask more questions. And I have had angelic beings, freaking angelic beings. And I've said, look, this happened. And you told me that it was, why didn't you tell me this? And they said, you didn't ask. They're cheeky like that. They said, you didn't ask. And really, if we told you, would you have believed us? And I was like, that's a good point. Yes. And they will say that wasn't your truth. We weren't going to say something that was contrary to your truth. Isn't that crazy? So in our definition, that's lying. That's lying. Keeping things back and then telling a story that's not yours. But at no time is this story usually the story isn't a lie. It is somebody's story. And sometimes a spirit will attach itself to a person because out of compassion and an emotional attachment. And that goes for angel, demon, animal, alien, whatever it is. They will attach themselves so much to the person. They watch them and they emulate everything that they do. It's almost like they become them in a way because they know everything about that person. They sometimes will be very connected, and we are talking about beings that have emotions that are at a level that we can't even comprehend. They communicate through emotions. They are energy. So yes, they're going to be very emotional. You think you're emotional at your time of the month? You think you're emotional at certain times of your life? Spirits are just as emotional, if not more. And to insult them or to disrespect them is kind of like probably 20 times worse than if you were to insult a person. And they don't take kindly to challenges. They don't take kindly to people constantly disrespecting them. And even a benevolent spirit. So if you have a benevolent spirit in your home, or inhabiting a vessel or something like that, just one that you have to encounter every day, they can become aggressive and violent, and a little testy, because when they're constantly being ignored and disrespected, and their needs are not being met. Nobody's asking them their story. And I can relate with that because I used to be that constant do-gooder, okay? You know, I did good even at the cost of my own sanity and happiness. I shouldn't have, but I did. And it was so devastating when nobody saw me and nobody heard me and nobody was seeing if my emotional and mental needs were being met. And I was isolated and I was alone. And I can tell you the anger that festered in me was so intense that I had to explode. And if you think of this, you know, if you take a vessel or there's a room in your house and you shut it, and that is potentially a benevolent being, or it's a being that doesn't want to bring any harm to you, um you are you're treating it as a pariah. You're treating that spirit as someone that isn't even sentient, that isn't alive. They are alive. You can't just shut them in a room or into a box and expect them to go away. It's not like that. You don't just blink a couple times and then it disappears. um what you've done is equivalent. If you've shut a vessel or a spirit in a room, that's equivalent to putting an adult in timeout. This is a grown this could be a very ancient being. It could have seen all of time for all we know. It could have seen the Big Bang. It could have seen the universe being born. Who knows? And you are disrespecting them. And you're wondering, well, why? I'm not disrespecting. I just don't want to well, you need to have somebody that can handle them, somebody that can communicate with them. Maybe you have a local witch or a trusted friend that's spiritually inclined, a medium, a paranormal investigator. Maybe you have a psychic friend. Maybe there's a voodoo priestess somewhere, a shaman, anything, a witch doctor, you know, anything that has to do with spiritual or metaphysical or supernatural or paranormal stuff. Someone that's comfortable with that. Because I can tell you, have you ever seen Poltergeist? The first one? Things get better because they shut the door to Carol Ann's room? No, it got worse. And when you it's kind of like anything. It's like if you were to leave a beautiful, let's say that you got a dog, okay? A beautiful, beautiful dog, and beautiful brindle coat, you know, purebred, and you decide to lock it in a cage without food and water and leaving it alone all the time. You're not worried about this dog. You don't do anything to interact with it. You don't engage with it. You don't play fetch with it. You don't do anything with that dog. You're just abandoning it. That dog has emotions and it has depression. It's a sentient living being. And in my eyes, I see animals as being very, very innocent, because everything they do is instinctual. Everything they do is not within our logical morality. It's because they need to survive. They either feel threatened or you're threatening something that's important to them. And they don't, when they have emotions, it's very, very extreme. It's very intense. And they can't really see anything else out there. It's like the Tinker Bell complex. But going back to the metaphor is, if you were to do that to an animal, they're not going to like you. They're not going to want to be your friend. They're going to fear you, and eventually they will begin to be angry, and angry with anybody that looks like you, meaning human. Not saying anything that anybody that looks human, any biped. Okay. So when that happens, you've literally created a monster, because you take anybody, a child, a dog, a spirit, and put them away somewhere and expect everything to be all right. It's not, because I can tell you there's nothing more devastating than being abandoned and neglected by the people that should love you. Yeah, I'm talking from a personal experience. I've dealt with that before, and there was a lot of anger and there was a lot of explosive stuff. So when a spirit lashes out like that and is throwing stuff, you have to think what got them to that point. It's like if when you get into a situation and you see this woman screaming, and and this other person just sitting there, going, taking it. You're thinking, well, of course it's this woman because she's screaming, when literally the one that's sitting down could have been causing the problem. You don't know. You cannot judge a story that you just walked into until you know the whole story. And I urge you, if you ever have a spirit in your home that you think that you're disturbed by or scared, it's natural to be scared, but honey, please know that a spirit, they're not all unreasonable. They're not all Annabelle. They're not all demonic and I want to eat your soul. I have dealt with a lot of different spirits, and I have dealt with hundreds of them even being demons. And I can tell you, they have never tried to harm me. They have never tried to mar me, scar me, traumatize me in any form. They respect my boundaries. Can you believe that? Demons respecting boundaries. It's a lot for me to take in sometimes too. But when I say no, they take that as a no. They don't say, "Oh, maybe let's do something else." No, they stop. They say, "I'm not comfortable with that," and they say, "Thank you for telling me." And when I set up my equipment, when I set up my phone in a place that I know where spirits are, the first thing that they say is, "Demon, demon, I'm a demon. Uh-huh. I am a demon. That's what I am, and that's what I'm gonna tell you that I am." I think therefore I am. So it's like, and they have such wonderful sense of humor. And if you give a spirit a reason to stay, and you give them a sense of belonging, for instance, if you have a spirit, tell them to come to the central part of the house. Or if you have a vessel, bring it to the central part of the house. Otherwise, the part of the house where everything happens, like where there's games and family night and movies and TV and things like that. And I urge you to say something. This is a recommendation. If you have a spirit and you're not quite sure, you could say, "I see you. I hear you. I know you're there. And I know you have a story to tell. When you are ready to tell your story, I will be here. Tell your story in your own time." And if things have not calmed down by that time, you can say, "Okay, I live here, you live here. Let's make this work." Because us being in conflict is not working right now. It's not working for you either. And it's not working for me. So, this is my home, and my home is your home. My family is your family. My friends are your friends. You respect me, I will respect you. You respect my boundaries, I will respect your boundaries. And when you let them know that they're a part of something, immediately I've seen spirits just completely change. Automatically they'll just be like, "What? You're a human with compassion? WTF? Huh?" Yeah, and they're surprised. They're genuinely surprised that I am actually uh, you know, recognizing that. And I have had actual demons come to me and I'll be out and about, and they'll say, you're very direct. Like, you're very direct. You have no fear. And I don't have fear. I used to. But when I face what I fear, if I see something in the corner of my eye and I turn, eventually I know I'm going to have to face them, because fear kind of just increases, it brings more fear, and fear accumulates, essentially. So the best thing to do is to address these spirits, because if you don't acknowledge them, they're just going to get angrier and angrier and angrier. It may not be the problem, but one of the things you can ask is, say, what do you need? And now, it's one thing if they're like saying, I need fresh blood or fresh souls, or I need to possess somebody, then obviously you might want some extra help, somebody that can cleanse the house or the vessel. But I would urge you never, I would recommend never to throw something away. If you're encountering spirits, it's best to just give it to someone who can handle it, rather than burning them or burying them, or doing some other weird shit that's on Witch Talk, like that. That's mainstream stuff, and it's really not what the majority of people are doing. And I can tell you, when it comes to working with spirits, yes, there's this unpredictability, but I can tell you, after a while, when you deal with spirits, a spirit is a spirit. They're all very unique, but I take it in stride. If I see something that I don't like, I just go, oh yeah, I don't like it when you do that. I don't like it when you grab my ankles. That's kind of a weird pet peeve of mine. Or, please don't touch my face. Or, don't do this. Set boundaries, because I have set boundaries with actual aggressive demons that have come at me, and I have said, you do not, I don't care who you are or how powerful you are, you don't do this. And they have stepped down. They have fleed before me. And I can tell you, I am safe when I do things. When I do my Ouija sessions and when I do what I do, I am very well protected. Even, they say, oh, never do a Ouija alone. Well, I'm never alone. Ever. I'm never alone. I'm never alone. So, yeah. So I can do Ouija sessions by myself. And the thing is, just because it's something you wouldn't do does not mean that it's wrong. It doesn't mean that something horrible is going to happen to me or someone else. You need to allow people to experience things. And this is a recommendation, a suggestion, but I suggest you're adding more worry to your life by worrying about these things. I know that spirits are scary, but have you seen the look on the demons in those paranormal videos? Ah, a human! Yeah, exactly. So, I'm just gonna say, I most of the time, demons do not want anything to do with us, okay? They don't. They look at us and they go the other way. The reason they are being aggressive is because you're in their space. You came into their home. You set up a Ouija board for some freaking reason. I've seen people setting up Ouija boards when you can literally see them. I'm like, I don't need to communicate with you because I can freaking see you. Recommendation, location is very important when it comes to Ouija sessions. Okay, it is pretty important, but it is also important about your attitude and your energy that you bring to it. If you are looking for a positive experience, you will have a positive experience. If you are anxious, or you are manifesting the fact that you might screw this up, or you're scared, and you're in a area has a lot of paranormal activity, that may not go well for you. So definitely look around, read the room, figure out, let's use my critical thinking skills and think, okay, it's kind of cold in this corner, and I woke up with some scratches on my back. Should I do a Ouija session? Probably not. You know, you gotta use your common sense, and also, if you're in a session, just be sure just to say, if you're feeling overwhelmed, just take your hand off the planchette. Just say, okay, and then breathe and do something, you know. And if it's possible, have something in your hands, have some music playing, have something that makes you feel good, a good song, like an Iggy Pop song or something. Maybe you like to listen to Patti LuPone or something like that. Do something that's positive, that's going to create a positive environment. If you're going to make it all ominous like in the movies, you're going to have an ominous experience. I'm not saying that this works 100% of the time, but I can say that the energy that you bring to the board is really, really impactful, and really does, will, it will, really make a difference in your session. So make sure that you're, that you're safe. But I can tell you, I know what I'm doing. Do you know how good I am at Ouija board? I don't mean to toot my horn, but I know how to talk to really dangerous spirits. And there's actually a method of doing it. I don't know how I can explain it to you, but I did it recently. I'm so good that I can make it to where the spirit does not know where I am, and they cannot see me. They cannot see my face. It is not a portal. It is that point. It's just like picking up the phone. They only hear my voice. They can't ping my location. They can't figure out what I'm doing. They only know and hear my voice. Now, does that sound like an amateur to you? Yeah, that's the thing. Ouija boards are they're expert level tools, and it's a double-edged sword. Yes, it can be a portal. Yes, it can be just a communication device. And if you don't know how to use a blade, you may end up cutting yourself. And that can be a problem. So, the only way that you can do is kind of just practice so you know what works for you. Experiment a little bit, but do little things, and eventually you will build up your confidence. And it's really important that you trust the spirits that you're talking to, that you trust the spirits to protect you, and that will make things easier for you. And I hope this has helped, and I hope you all have a beautiful, blessed day.